Let me start in on the law of computability. Um, think about what's going on in the economy. Y- the law of computability starts with the idea that there's a level of knowledge of the phenomenon of interest of the job to be done. How well do we know it? And think about that as categorization. We can say, look, that's a fast one, that's a slow one, that's an easy one, that's a hard one. That's categorization. Correlation. When you see the fast one, you also usually see the pink one, right? Causation. Actually, the fast one starts to make the pink one happen. And those are three levels of knowledge. And kind of what's our level of knowledge of the task of interest? And the second thing is how digitized is the job to be done? Level of knowledge times computability equals digitization. All right. Uh, sorry, equals computability. Level of knowledge times digitization equals computability. Level of knowledge times digitization equals computability. And let me give you a specific example to bring this alive. Here's one of the Google cars that they put around the campus. And when the Google car started, and we heard this from Chris Urmson, the head engineer at the event called the Exchange that I was running for Pricewaterhouse and for Diamond, and he's the senior engineer at the Google car. And in my lingo around computability, the car itself was relatively computable, right? The physics, the electronics, and so forth. You could model the car, and even the car in motion in terms of the behavior of the car. But the car's environment, where it was driving, was in fact not digitized. You see the little thing on the top of this thing kind of looks like a hat on top of the car? That's a LiDAR, which is a laser scanner. And the early ones spun around and they paint the world with a laser and they collect 1.5 million pieces of data per second. That's the old ones. The new ones do much more per second. And what they do with that is they create a 3D model of reality that the car then drives through. So the challenge of creating the self-driving car was not not the level of knowledge of the job to be done. We understand the physics of the environment. It was the digitization. And so by doing the digitization, they could then start to create a much deeper level of knowledge. And so that's what I mean by computability. And you can look at the same thing, whether it's the way Progressive or Direct Line, Progressive in the US, Direct Line in the UK do life insurance issuance, or you start to look at how Uber or Amazon does forecasting of planning for inventory. They have a patent now where they ship inventory into a possible demand cloud. That's all about increasing the computability. And this is different than automation because with automation, you only get rid of the labor. With computability, you can get rid of labor or change the nature of labor, and you also get a symbolic description of the behavior, which has ongoing value, a great intangible. Lots more to say about that, but we will see. This notion of computability is really the heart, the beating heart of what is transforming commerce as we know it. And the reason it's relevant today is, well, let me let Rob get into this in a second. The reason this is relevant today is that the more digitized and computable the reality becomes, the more that traditional measures depart from economic value creation. So the more digitized, the more intellectualized, the more intangible assets drive value, the more the traditional ways we think about this are wrong and actually driving us, pun intended, in the wrong direction.